Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Aaron Trevino here, and we have a wonderful guest. We have Dave from Boston. How you doing, Dave?
I'm good, man. Dave from Boston. That's the quickest intro ever. I love that. I love that. I'm doing well. It's a little bit snowy up here, but I'm not going to I'm not going to complain about the weather after what you guys have been through in Texas. So our prayers went out to you guys. That was a horrible scenario for you to deal with.
Yeah, it was pretty tough down here. We don't exactly have the infrastructure like you guys do in New England for the cold, but we got through it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. It must have been tough though. I was thinking about my years of flipping houses. Most people, they know me from A&E's TV show Flipping Boston that we did for a bunch of seasons there. And I was thinking about the amount of burst pipes I dealt with in my own career while flipping houses in the cold without any heating. But I'm sure you guys must have had some, or as we say in Boston, wicked challenges, right, going on with your burst pipes and your rehabs that you guys are lending on. How was that? I'm going to interview you. Forget me. I want to know how you guys got through it.
Yeah, no, it's tough to say because we're only a few hours into the workday. The Monday after the weekend. So
Sure.
only time will tell. I do know that I have a few friends with properties that had, a few issues having the plumbers come out over the weekend. Now that things have cleared up, so I'll probably have a better answer for you this Friday.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? No matter what we do in real estate, we're always trying to hedge the downside and accelerate the upside, right? We always talk about our expertise and how we're skilled in real estate investing at the highest levels possible to protect our investors, protect our contractors and builders, et cetera, et cetera. But when an act of God comes down and taps you on the shoulder, guess what? There ain't nothing. I mean it, nothing you can do about it. You just got to pivot and get in the game. So yeah. Anyway, I hope all is well for you guys for sure.
Yes, thank you so much, Dave. We're getting it done down here, and like any other time, we'll always find a way.
Sure, sure.
But
Interesting.
excuse my trite introduction, Dave from Boston. But so for those of us who aren't too familiar with you, would you introduce yourself?
Sure. So I am Dave Seymour. I'm from the Boston area, originally an immigrant to the States from England. I immigrated back in 1986. Spent quite a bit of time in various careers, kind of following the blueprint that was laid out for most working class blue collar guys. My father's best advice to me was, work hard, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, do what you're supposed to do, show up, trade your time for somebody else's money. And I was very good at that for a very long period of time. However, what I wasn't good at was management of capital, money management, right? Kind of funny. I look back at it today and I think about, how a credit card was only for emergencies, and, debt is bad. And if you want to earn more money, then work more hours. And keeping up with the Joneses, Aaron, right? Cars, boats, and leather coats, always making sure that, I was in line with what was going on around me. And look, today on the other side of that, I always say I'm kind of like a blue collar attitude in a white collar world. Don't you can't wow me with your Harvard degree. I want to know what you're really capable of doing, right? Just because you got a piece of paper that says you're educated, it doesn't mean you're smart. And I found myself in a fantastic career, man. I loved it. I was a firefighter and a paramedic. I worked just north of Boston, Massachusetts. And, if I wasn't a financial donkey, if I wasn't a financial illiterate, if I had more education than, just sign up for the 401k program like everybody else does and you'll be okay, which is a lie. If I'd have had more education than that, if I'd have known the power of capital going to work instead of me, I'd probably still be in the fire department. But unfortunately, I wasn't. And I found myself in a pretty rough situation, late 2007. And, I was looking at a foreclosure on my primary residence. I had $70,000 in unsecured debt. I was working, check this out, ready? 120 hours a week between three jobs. Because what's great or not great about our country, depending on how you look at it, you can work as many jobs as you want. right? You could actually work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if you could find a way of doing that. And I tried, brother, trust me. But anyway, look, I found myself in a real estate education seminar. And for the first time in my life, I began to hear things I hadn't heard before. I heard that there was good debt and bad debt. I heard that if you really want to create wealth, you got to figure out how to make money while you're asleep. I heard things like get your money out, let one free so it can come back with two or three. I learned things like knowledge is power is the biggest line of BS ever created, because knowledge isn't powerful. It's only powerful if it's implemented, right? Do you have actionable things that you can do to create wealth? So look, man, they turned my little world upside down. They really did. They kind of grabbed me by the boots and shook all the stupidity out of me and started filling me up with entrepreneurship. And I wasn't resistant. I don't know about anybody who listens to your show from an investor standpoint, or a newer investor, or even somebody who's established. I was beaten. I was tired, man. I couldn't do it anymore. And, I made a commitment to entrepreneurship, and that's where it started. I started, my very first transaction was a wholesale transaction on a single family home. I made $5,000, man, on a house I didn't even own. And it was like, holy moly, look at this, would you? It's funny, dude. I stepped out of the attorney's office. I got a check in my hand for $5,000. And it felt illegal, because it was like, I don't own the house, but I got a check for $5,000. And I was thinking about the amount of hours I traded to make $5,000. And I was waiting for 5-0 to pull up and, the big sedans to come in and whisk me away. But it was legal. I supplied a service to a seller and a buyer. I got myself in the middle of that transaction. And I actually gave that check a name. I called it a shut up check. And I took it to everybody who said I couldn't do it. Everybody who said the only way to make money was to trade time for money. I showed them the check and I said, shut up, look at that check, right? Because well, once you do something, you can't ever have somebody tell you can't do it, right? And it progressed from there. So I've had a powerful career over the past 15 years. Single family flips. I've borrowed the hard money. I've lent the hard money. I've worked with private investors. I've done single family homes, apartment complexes, multifamilies, 3, 6s, 12s. I owned a 6-flat in the south side of Chicago while I lived in Boston, and I still made money. Like, I got skills, you know what I mean? And, the journey's been powerful, man. It's been an absolute blessing that I stepped away from, kind of like I don't know about you, man, but I kind of felt like I had been lied to for many years when it came to finances. When I learned about 401k compounding costs eating into compounding profits, I got a little upset. I got a little disgruntled, and it gave me energy to move forward. But it's been a blessing. It's been a real blessing and an eye-opening journey, because now I get to share my skill sets and my team's skill sets with other investors. I get to share it with other entrepreneurs who are looking to change. So look, dude, don't you let me just go, because I'll keep talking and there won't be any oxygen left on this Zoom call for you to jump in. But that's kind of like the big picture of where I am and where I came from.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Dave. You did a great job of painting the big picture. I'm just curious as well. You kind of touched on it briefly, maybe a bit about your childhood growing up in England. Them grabbing you by the boots and shaking all the nonsense out of you. What were a few maybe financial misconceptions that you grew up with that maybe you found out later were not true?
Yeah, that's a great question. Money doesn't grow on trees. Who do you think we are? The Rockefellers, right? Put your money in a savings account and everything will be okay. Just save for retirement. Only evil and bad people have money. You need money to make money. Debt is bad. Debt is bad. Pay off your credit card debt. Don't ever use debt. Get out of debt. Debt is the most wonderful thing there is. The more debt I have, the more money I make. I'll say that again. The more debt I have, the more money I make. The more debt I incur in my companies, the more money my investors make, right? These they were contrarian. They were upside down. They were back to front. Now, if you listen to Susie Armand and, that line of education, it's great if you are a consumer, if you are a technician, if you want to live inside the lines. Wealth is created by coloring outside the lines. The Rockefellers made their money in real estate. Yale endowment makes its money in real estate. Harvard makes its money in real estate. Your company makes its money because of real estate, because of sticks and bricks, because of the power that there is in understanding this game at all levels. So, I grew up in the English equivalent of the projects. We called them council housing estates. It was never on my radar to own a house, right? It was never going to be in my cards, but I've probably owned more houses than most people have had hot dinners in their careers. You know what I'm saying? And made a lot of money doing it over the years. So, yeah, I think the biggest one is that people will invest in the stock market blindly because a financial planner says it's a good idea, right? They invest in something that isn't tangible. And for some reason, people think that commercial real estate, which is where I'm at today in our private equity fund, people think that, the barrier to entry is so high, they can never get into it. You can never get involved in it. That's only for the hedge funds. That's only for Wall Street. Well, that's BS, bro. That is absolute BS. This working class kid from the East End of London kicked down that door and said to all his friends, come on, let's go. Follow me. There's a way that we can earn 10 to 14% targeted returns on our money, right? Those are real investments. That's where real wealth is created. So, I learned from some of the very best there is. And they said to me, David, it's just zeros, kid. You had a zero going in, you had a zero coming out. It takes the same amount of work to do a large apartment complex that it does to do a 6-unit property. So that was some of the mental barriers that I broke down, and feeling worthy as well. I came from a place that kept me down, and it wasn't until I got some knowledge and implemented it that the roof came off, and now you can't stop me. Get in my way, I'm going to run you over.
No, I'm curious as well. That was a great explanation, Dave. I'm curious as well. Is that it seems like all of the odds were stacked against you. Living in the council estates, right? Not coming from much, not having the financial acumen, being in a working class job that wasn't exactly that sort of white collar job. What prevented you from getting this sort of imposter syndrome, like you don't belong?
Oh, that's such a good question. Look, you just assumed that I didn't get it, right? I didn't have imposter syndrome, and it takes a daily decision to step into your own greatness. And I don't want to get too far out there, but that's a reality. I was sitting on the set in New York on Squawk Box. If you watch Squawk Box in the morning. So Becky's on there and Joe, and I'm sitting next to the vice president to the Federal Reserve, to the chair of the Federal Reserve. And we're on there and we're sharing, something about real estate. And I remember the vice president of the Reserve looking at me and asking my opinion on the topic of conversation that was on this particular episode. And, there's a little voice that screams inside your head, run away. Right? Run, Forrest, run. It's like a scene out of Forrest Gump. Like, run away from what is unfamiliar. And, you're a fake, you're a phony. I was only in the firehouse, 2-3 years earlier. And, those demons will scream and shout at you. However, you can choose to step into greatness. It's an internal dialogue, right? We talk to ourselves all day long. Something ridiculous, like a million different things we tell ourselves every day. I am, whatever. I am. So, I worked very hard to be in this suit coat today. I worked very hard to stand in these shoes. I worked very hard to be able to do this Zoom podcast with you and be not just competent, but be a goddamn expert at what I do, because I've put the effort in. I've done the work. And, it's goofy, man, but I'm all about some meditation and some affirmation. On my board over there, it says, replace fear with faith. Are my actions in lines with my intentions? If not, change them. And then I had a couple of profanities underneath there because that's who I am, right? Just to keep myself on tack. But it's work, man. It takes a lot of work. It's personal development first. That's the biggest return you'll ever get. And then being able to step into business with passion and power, and then people are attracted to it. So, yeah, I've had imposter syndrome. Not anymore. I've had it in the past. I got over that waste of time.
Yeah, no, I love that, Dave. I think that's great. And I love your mantra as well, talking about replacing fear with faith. And, when people hear the word faith, it sounds like it's so open-ended or ambiguous. What specifically are you putting faith in?
Yeah. Look at you, man. You're insightful. I like this. I'm putting faith in me, my team, execution of the process, and knowing with confidence, and that's the word, confidence, knowing with confidence that I can do what I say I'm going to do. Because we all doubt ourselves. I think the only time as human beings that we are truly honest with ourselves is usually at 3:00 in the morning, right? There's nobody else around. You're looking in the mirror, and to thine own self be true. So I have faith in the decisions that I make. I maintain the ability to be teachable. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. If I am, I'm in the wrong room. I have faith that, if I was successful yesterday, I reproduce that today, and I can expect success tomorrow. And when I talk about success, it's not always personal success. My success is gauged on the results I give my private investors, right? The accredited investors who invest alongside us and our fund at Freedom Venture. That's the gauge of my success. And I have faith in our business plan. I have faith in our model. I have faith in my team. And when that is genuine and not phony, that's a powerful freaking thing, man. It's like you set it's almost like a wave of emotion, right? Emotion, energy, emotion. Like my investors are excited. I'm excited. I just got off a call this morning with a guy in the Tennessee marketplace. He's a syndicator of apartment complexes. And we were talking about putting together what's called an SPV, a special purpose vehicle, almost like an LLC that can invest inside my fund. So it's a fund to fund structure. And we're talking about tens of millions of dollars, right? And he's excited, man. He's excited because he sees the vision. He has faith, right? And surrounding myself with the right people. So, is it faith in a higher power? Yeah. Ego stands for ease God out, right? I don't care who you are. Have a faith in something bigger or better than you. Call it Sheila, call it Buddha, call it the Force out of Star Wars, call it Jesus Christ, call it anything you want. But don't think that we walk this earth with all the answers, right? We're seekers. Those that seek shall find. And once you are aware, you can't be unaware again. You know what I mean? Like I have faith in that journey as well. So, I can go a little deep with you, brother, but that's kind of where I'm at when it comes to faith.
That's right. No, I really like that. Those who seek will find.
Yeah. Look, a lot of people, right? I've been blessed to be an international educator in both personal development, coaching, real estate. And there is a common thread everywhere. First of all, we just want to be loved, right? Let's get that one off to the side there. That's your issues from your childhood. But after that, it's authenticity. People want to feel authentic. They want to feel valued, and everybody is seeking something. And my responsibility today as CEO of my company is to fulfill the expectations of the people around me. Mine are fulfilled by other people further in the journey than me. I am mentored, I am coached, I coach and I mentor, right? I have a responsibility to put a hand out. Don't give people a hand up, but give them the hand out and then the hand up. You know what I mean? Work alongside them. And, for me, it's been a consistent process of just stepping into that every single day and helping people find what they're looking for. And, the thing that's right in front of most people right now is fear. False evidence appealing real. That's what fear stands for. And, most people believe that they should be okay with a 4% return on their money. Well, that's stupid. Sorry, you're a donkey. Look, if you're at 4%, you're probably not even beating the inflation rate that the government has created with the trillions of dollars that they poured into our economy. I get it. Don't, you're liberals. I get it. We got to take care of everyone. I'm okay with that. But be prepared for the consequences of every action going forward. Seek the truth around finance. Seek the truth around politics. Seek the truth in your community. Are you a good person taking care of good people? Let's just go straight at it, right? Seek honesty, authenticity, decency, people who own their mistakes, who own their successes, and are ready to share it, man. I mean, there's a lot of money leaving New York right now, and that New York money is trying to find somewhere to go, but it's got New York money attitude attached to it. Well, guess what? New York money attitude don't fly in Texas, brother. It don't fly in Florida. We look at it a little different where we are, right? Yeah. Show me your cards and I'll show you mine. That's what we say in Texas and Florida, Carolinas, business-friendly states. The less business-friendly, Massachusetts, New York City. I mean, California, right? It's a different mindset. Whereas we just look for people who are seeking the same things. And what they're looking for is a safe retirement. They're looking for a consistent retirement income, and commercial real estate in our arena has been able to do that for our investors. And I know you guys can do the same thing in your hard money lending business, right? You bring in a lender, they put their capital on a solid piece of real estate. They get a return better than most other returns in the marketplace. They're protected, secured, insured. There's intelligence behind it. There's a system behind it. Stop it. How much better can it get than that? You know what I mean? That's kind of how I look. Man, you got me all wound up. What time is it? It's only like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm ready to go. I love what I do, Aaron. I love it, dude.
I can tell you're on fire, Dave.
Yeah, man. Yeah, always. Oh, you know what it is, man? When I worked 120 hours a week, the goal is that I make money so that I could take care of my family. Well, when you work 120 hours a week, you can't be present for your family. When I was home, I was exhausted. It cost me a marriage, cost me a potential relationship with my son. I suffered, dude. I suffered. So to be on the other side of that and to be empowered with knowledge and implementation and skills and systems and team, and it jacks me up every day, dude. Right? I just turned 54 last year, and it's like I feel like I'm 21. Bring it on. Let's go, baby, go. I'm on fire. Always. You attract what you put out, like attracts like. So
that's beautiful. There's a lot to be said for that, it sounds cliche, but age is but a number. I did a triathlon last year, and it was incredible. Seeing guys in their early 60s, and they were just blowing right past guys in their early 20s.
Sure. I've got an institutional business partner, a guy by the name of Alec Eckhart, and he's an ultra marathon runner, a mountain climber. It's like, when you find your drive, right? When you find a true purpose, you can't stop it, dude. You can't stop it. Those 60-year-old triathletes looking at you going, oh, look at that little puppy over there. That's all right. He's learning. He'll get there. I mean, it's a decision. It's a decision to do a triathlon. It's a decision to run a marathon. It's a decision to change your financial future. It's a decision to be more present for your children. It's a decision, right? Decision. God gave us the ability to decide, right? They gave us the ability to decide. There's no other creature in the universe that we know of other than human beings that have the gift of decision. Sure. Animals just work on instinct. We got a higher intelligence. Use it, right? Use it. Stop watching broke flicks. Get off the couch. Get in the game. Live a life. How you doing? There you go. Coaching now.
I like that, Dave. I like that.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
You brought up an interesting point about making decisions, right? So, you talked about working 120 hours a week, you're grinding, you're maybe not seeing your family the way you'd like to. At that point in time, that could be someone's breaking point. That could be the time where
Yeah.
someone surrenders and says, "Hey, I don't want any more." But for you, you made a decision to do something even harder, to transition, to pivot, and to go into something brand new.
Mm, mm. You use that word surrender. I come from a place where I learned that I can surrender to win. I'll say that again, surrender to win, which is kind of a contradiction, right? And here's where that was. Some people are consistent with a life of mediocrity, right? It's just how you doing? Same old, same old. How's it going? Another day, another dollar, right? Like, they just puke negativity every single day. And for me, I got to that point where I surrendered to win. I gave up. I just threw my hands up to my guy upstairs and I said, I can't do this anymore. I don't lie. I don't cheat. I don't steal, right? I own the home. I'm trying to live the American dream and it's a freaking nightmare, right? I'm yours. Use me as you will. What's next? Help me out, please. I'm crying like a baby in my pickup truck. And that was when that commercial came over on the radio to go to this seminar to go learn real estate. And those that seek shall find. Um, a lot of people have asked me a question similar to that, like, what's exceptional about you that you got these massive results in your life? I'm not exceptional. I was beaten. I just made a decision to give it one last go, to give it a try, to step up and, swing the bat one more time. And how many fantastic ideas are there buried in the graveyard, right? How many are there still sitting at the bar saying, tomorrow I'm going to do something different, and yet they don't? They're still sitting at the same old bar stool, drinking the same beer, telling the same bullshit stories over and over again. I got to a point where I didn't want to be authentic anymore. And if at that moment in time my authenticity was pain and loss and failure, I lived it. I owned it. Freaking owned it. Yeah, I did this to me. Nobody else, right? I'm responsible for the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that becomes a drive, if you will. You put the gas pedal down, because if I could screw up that bad with that much effort, what if that effort was put into a different direction? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was it. Like, I'm not frightened of working. It's funny, entrepreneurs, there's a saying in entrepreneurship, I quit a 40-hour work week so I could work 120 hours as an entrepreneur. I probably work as close to as many hours as I used to, but it doesn't feel like work anymore. You know what I mean? So that was my pivot. I just owned it. Just stop blaming everybody else. Accountability isn't a dirty word. It's a growth word.
Yep. There's a lot to be said for that, Dave. And it's interesting how, you just kind of took one step in front of the other. You got your first wholesale deal. You got that $5,000 check in your hand. What happened after that? Could you kind of run through maybe, from that $5,000 check until where you are now?
Yeah. So that $5,000 check came in 2008. And we know what happened in 2008, right? So when everybody was running out, I was running in. I stayed at it, man. I networked my ass off. I found other investors that had some depth and tenacity in the market. I paralleled those guys. I learned from them. I was still swinging a hammer on my days off as a firefighter back then, so I could bring some skills. I knew the people in the city. I knew the inspectional services because I was a firefighter. Like, I took every tool outside of my toolbox that I could and just leveraged it out. That led to my first buy, fix, and flip, my second buy, fix, and flip, my third. I learned how to use hard money lending, and it was funny back then. The hard money lending guys were at like, 15 and 16%, right? 4 points, those were the days. Those were the days, my Lord. And, but we still made the deals work. We made them work. And along the way, I was buying my own portfolio of cash flowing assets. I've been a landlord. I know what that feels like. It's painful. I've been the guy to fix the toilet at 3:00 in the morning. That's no fun. I just kept going. I always elevated my network, right? The network is your net worth. We've heard that before. So I always tried to figure out how I could bring somebody value who was doing things bigger and better than I was, so that I could begin to parlay in parallel, right? I want to be moving forward. I don't ever want to be going side to side, and I don't want to be going backwards. So I was always reaching out, and I got to be alongside one guy had 7,000 apartment doors throughout the country, and I tucked myself right in under his wing, and I learned. That was the guy who said to me, "There are only zeros, Dave, going in and out. You decide what you want to do, right? It's a little house or a big house." Um, and then from there, I've been a lender all the way along. I had a hard money lending business at the beginning of 2020. It was a great business model. We were ripping off of a $50 million line of credit. We had a 7-day turnaround on those notes. New York was buying the notes from us. So we were getting yield and rip and spread. It was great. I mean, it was a great business model. Our investors were happy. We had about 18 million in the pipe. And then COVID hit and New York said, "Nope, we're not buying those anymore. You're done, son." And I was out of business in 3 days. And I'm like, what happened? I pulled a Hillary Clinton. What happened, right? And, that word you use is pivot. There's 2 words of 2020, pivot and unprecedented. Pivot and unprecedented. Those are the 2 words of 2020. If you didn't pivot, you're going to die on the vine. Unprecedented is the circumstances in which we faced. And I connected with my now acquisitions officer partner, Walter Novicki, down in the Fort Myers marketplace. And he has raised $125 million in private equity in his career, deployed it on deals, paid it back, never missed a quarterly distribution, always met his targeted returns. But he was investing purely in ground up construction, apartment complexes, and then repositioning of existing complexes, B properties, B neighborhoods. And he said to me, "Dave," he said, "I can do 1 or 2 at a time." He said, "Or we can raise a fund." He said, "Why don't we raise $100 million fund, and we'll take that $100 million, and what we'll do is we'll attempt to buy $300 million worth of real estate, because we don't over leverage with our investors' capital. We go in a 65% loan to value with our banking relationships." He said, "Instead of buying just 1 or 2, he said, we'll buy them all." And I said, "Well, what does all look like, Walter?" He said, "I have in essence, a proprietary buy box for apartment complexes in the Gulf Coast region of Florida." He said, "These complexes will pay our investors a targeted 6% preferred rate. Then it's 10 to 14% targeted quarterly distributions on the capital deployed in the fund. And then their IRR, or their internal rate of return for the value of the money working in the fund, is anywhere between 20 and 22% targeted returns." He said, "All we got to do is raise the money." He said, "Because my deal flow is ridiculous. After 25 years, it's all mom and pop organizations that are sending us the deals. And we buy everything that the big boys in Wall Street and California and Massachusetts and New York don't want, because they're too stupid to realize that the yield is in the smaller assets, 40 to 150 doors. And we swim in that pool like crazy. Our investors give us high fives. I just came back from Florida 2 days ago. 81 unit complex we're taking down just outside of Orlando, and we just buy the right deals. CBS, concrete block and stucco construction. We buy bunkers that cash flow, because that's what we buy is cash flow. And in today's market, if you're not getting cash flow, run for the hills. If you're buying on spec, run for the hills. Get yourself involved in a transaction that pays cash flow, not just soon, but next quarter. Not soon, next quarter. And that's the assets that we target. And nothing but success. The institutions are actually looking at us now, which is funny. I just walked these properties with some institutional partners, and they're like, "Well, we were going to be at 20 million for a minimum investment, but seeing what you guys are doing, we might dial those back down to 3 to 10 to 15 million on some of these smaller assets, rather than overpaying and getting crappy yield on the larger assets that are out there." So that's where I live today, man. I'm in finance like you. I talk yield spread and bips all day long. I talk about hedging the downside and accelerating the upside. I talk about capital verticals. I talk about loan to values. I live with underwriting sheets and and analysis and MSAs and job growth and employment growth and everything else that goes with it. So that's where we are today, and it's working. Everything that we've laid out for the COVID journey is absolutely coming to fruition now. We've got more deals than we can buy. So if you're an accredited investor and you're listening to this call me. All right. Give some over to Aaron and his team. Let them put them on single assets for you. Then put some over here with us, and I'll work your money for the next 5 to 7 years at a targeted 6% rip, and then 10 to 14% after that. So anyway, that's what I'm doing, man, and I'm loving doing it. It's just a great time to be doing it.
There you go. I like that. And I'm curious as well, why do you think a lot of the I guess the quote big boys, the big institutional investors, why did they not like that 40 to 150 unit range?
Yeah, they play the economies of scale, number one. What they don't realize is that if they write a $50 million check for a 300 unit complex, that money is all tied up in one complex. And they've got this thing in their head that that's the one investment that they're going to make with the 50 million. What they don't realize is if I did 5 units at 10 million, I can potentially double and triple their yield. And what they haven't got are operating partners like us to execute. I always look at it this way. You can get in the Titanic and try and turn it past the iceberg. And we know what happened to the Titanic. But what if the Titanic wasn't the Titanic and it was 10, 15, 20 speedboats? I guarantee you not one of those speedboats would have hit that iceberg. You know what I'm saying? And it's the same concept in this. But what these guys don't realize is they can own a fleet of speedboats, but they keep on wanting to go out and buy one Titanic. And, it's kind of interesting that mindset is now beginning to come around, because their yield on the Titanic, I mean, the last deal that we walked with some of these guys at that level, just to hear what was going on, they're parking 72 million was the offer on this one asset that we walked last week. Again, just to hear what's going on with them. And, the yield on it's about 3.5, maybe 4%. And the dialogue is simply this: we got so much money, we just want to park it with some kind of return and hope that we get appreciation over the next 10 years. They're just parking capital, right? They're just backing up the truck, parking it in these large assets and sitting there. And let them do that, because my investors, the retail investors, they can't play with those guys anyway, right? They can't play there. There's a barrier to entry. They get to come and play in our sandbox, same protection of asset class, better yield.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge. Just kind of recognizing, different opportunities in the market, because a lot of people will say, this is kind of out of my price range. This is a bit too complex or too large to understand. Yeah. But you're making it sound like, this is something where investors can get in and it makes sense and it's manageable for people to understand. Yeah,
we're doing the deal that I just walked in, and it's in Eustis. I've got an 81 unit complex, 55 doors in Eustis and 26 doors in Leesburg. And you put them together, it's an 80, just doing the math. Yeah, 81 unit acquisition. So it's a very typical deal. This one has a little more work attached to it, yet nothing that even begins to get my heart rate up. But I'll give you an example. 81 units. Acquisition price is just shy of 7 million, including 500,000 in upgrades and repairs that we're going to do to these 81 doors. We're probably going to get rid of the management in place because they're not performing adequately. We put our management team in there. We put our construction team in there. We reposition the whole asset, right? So we'll go in there. Purchase price is 6.3. I'd have to pull up the number, 6.3. We got 500 in construction, repairs, repositioning, 200 in closing costs, etc. So let's say it's 7 altogether. So a deal like that, for example, we'll raise 3 million. We have an assumptive loan as part of the acquisition. We'll get a new loan for the rest of the purchase price. So the investors come in, we'll raise 3 million with our investors. They're now our business partners, okay? And what the investor does is the money goes in, 100,000, 250,000. We stay in that area with accredited investors. Some investors might write a check for $1 million. It depends on how they feel at any one time. They'll put that money in. And then after that, you know what they do? Nothing. They don't do anything except collect the targeted returns, right? We take on all liability. We take on the capital stack. We take on the work. Like it's a cut and paste scenario for us to do this. So the barrier to entry is usually cost, knowledge, and accessibility to deals. Well, we've lowered the barrier to entry to $100,000 for accredited investors. The knowledge is just learn about us, right? Do your due diligence on us as the general partners, the operators of the asset, right? And then access to the institutional deals. Well, I got more of those deals than I can fund right now. So all of the reasons why not are removed. So then an investor looks at it and says, well, why should I do it? And the answer to that is also very simple. I don't know. You tell me, why should you do it? Are you happy with your shitty returns in the marketplace? If your certified financial planner tells you to run away, 2 reasons. 1, they don't know what they're talking about. And 2, they don't make any money on it, right? It's as simple as that. We're in the alternative investment world where the real money is made. So, barrier to entry is no longer an excuse. You do need to be an accredited investor to invest with us. Securities and Exchange Commission determines an accredited investor as an individual who earns $200,000 a year or more, $300,000 as a family unit, or $1 million in net worth, including retirement accounts. So we have a ton of opportunity for investors to look at their retirement accounts, take a portion, not all of it, take some of that out, put it in a self-directed retirement account, and you can invest with us same way they can invest with you guys, right? I'm sure you take in a lot of self-directed retirement money for your lending business as well. So, do both. What a great call this is, dude. Do both. Put your money in the hard money lending business, get that consistent monthly cash flow, put it in with us, get the long-term quarterly cash flow. They'll probably even out over time anyway. Maybe mine pays a little bit more, but not much. But jokingly, but seriously, real estate isn't just owning real estate. When you get on this side of the equation, on the money side, the bank always wins. Remember that, right? So be the bank for sure.
Yep, that's right, Dave. You brought up an interesting point about, the money being made in the alternative sphere and in the alternative, investment world. Well, why do you think most people kind of see the big institutions and kind of see that to be true as opposed to exploring other alternative solutions?
It's a great question. It's knowledge, man. It's knowledge. Let's look at GameStop and Tesla, right? Why are people investing in Tesla on a dream? You know why? Because that's all we freaking talk about. That's all we hear. Why did GameStop do what it did? Because Reddit pushed it through, right? Reddit pushed that and pushed and pushed. And then when the big institutions went, hold on a minute, the retail investor, the little guy, is now having an impact, they shut that crap down, right? Look, it's full circle, man. Those that seek shall find. Go to my website. You'll learn. freedomventure.com. You'll learn about alternative investments. Go to your site, Aaron, and you'll learn the power of putting capital to work, protected, secured, and insured against a hard asset. A hard asset, not a want, not a dream. Look, I get it. Look, I'm not in the stock market, right? I've always been in the alternative space. I like the alternative space because when I invest, I have an expectation of a 20% return. That's how I do my investing. And, it's exposure. This exposure, this has been a secret for way too long. And guys like me are spreading the secret a little wider so that everybody can participate. Anybody who meets that requirement can participate. And I'll turn away your money if you don't understand what the investment is. I don't want an uneducated investor. I want to bring you up the gradient so you understand what you're doing so that we feel great together about the capital that we make and the investments that we do.
That's right, Dave. Absolutely. So, I'm curious as well, you had a great run through of, a bit about your background, what you do. What are you looking forward to in the future for the remainder of 2021?
Yeah, we're targeted to bring in another 10 million in assets under management by the end of Q1. On deck, we have another 50 million in LOIs coming through the acquisitions process. So I'm excited to see everything that we've been planning for come to fruition, which is the need for fast capital to come into the market and help the mom and pops get out of the trouble they're in and help our investors get into targeted double-digit returns. That's what I'm excited about. I'm excited to watch, great plans are one thing, but great plans that come to fruition, they're a magnificent thing. And, that's what I'm excited for in 2021, 22, 3, 4, 5. We're already putting the infrastructure together for a $500 million fund, which will be fun too for us. So, as we said earlier, my friend, we're on fire.
That we are. We're on fire on a Monday afternoon.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we're excited, brother. We're excited to just keep on putting one foot in front of the other and bringing our investment community with us.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, Dave. Is there anything that you haven't said thus far that you'd really just like to hammer home?
No, man. I mean, look, for me to be on this podcast, right? Everybody wants to give value and receive value, right? It's the law of reciprocity. You'll notice in my communications, every time I talk about the value of what I bring to an investor, to a retail investor, if you listen carefully, I immediately put that same valuation back onto you guys and what you do. Because I know, look, I've got non-accredited investors who look at my investment opportunities and they say, Dave, I want in. And I say, well, I can. But guess what? Now I've got a really nice funnel that I can potentially send investors over to you guys, because you can take non-accredited investors who are sitting on capital who can maybe get a rate of return. So what I want to throw out there is this, hogs get slaughtered and pigs get fat. You know what I mean? Like, take care of each other in business and in life. If you're sitting on lazy money, stop it. If you're saving for retirement, it's a loser's bet. Understand what we do. Understand what Aaron and his team does so that the capital gets out of those lazy places, right? What's the average return? What's the average cost of capital on a credit card right now? You got credit cards that can give you 7, 8%, right? What if you borrowed all the money on a credit card and you put it into a real estate transaction, pays you 12? How much money are you, whose money are you using? You're using the bank's money. I mean, these kinds of ideas sound asinine. They sound so crazy. And yet, I don't care where you go. You look at the biggest building out there, nothing was ever built with cash. It was always built with credit, OPM, other people's money, banks, investors. So identify your lazy money. If you have a CD, a certificate of death, cash it out as soon as you can, put it to work, put that money to work. Look at money as soldiers sitting in the barracks, scratching their rear ends, doing nothing. Our job as the general of that army is to get those bad boys out, get them working, set one free so it can come back with 2 or 3. That's it, baby. That's what we do, brother. We enjoy doing it every single day, for sure.
I like that, Dave. That's a beautiful illustration, sending them out and putting them to work, right?
Yeah. Let one free so it can come back with 2 or 3, for sure.
Absolutely, Dave. Maybe someone's listening. They're in New England. Maybe they're not, in Florida, other parts of the country. They want to get in touch with you and consult with you. Where can we find you?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways to get a hold of us. I'm actually old school. I have a telephone. When it rings, I answer it. You can call us at 781-922-4418. Let me know that you heard us on this call, this podcast with Aaron and his team. You can reach us at freedomventure.com, freedomventure.com. Google my name, Dave Seymour, Seymour. I'm out there. You can find me. Those that seek shall find, right? And I have solutions to financial problems. It's as simple as that.
I like that. I think that's the big message here, for this podcast, is that those who seek will find, whether it's, finding a way into entrepreneurship out of a firefighting job and into, kind of this new role that you have serving in this capacity. That's definitely something to be proud of.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, Dave, it's been a real pleasure, learning a bit more about you, about your background coming from England, firefighting, kind of your journey to where you are now. So you've been a magnificent guest, and it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you finding the time to listen to me. It's all good, man. Let's make this the start of something, not the end of something. Okay.
That's right, Dave. Looking forward to it. We'll talk to you later.
All right, man. Take care.